The fluorescent lights of St. Thomas Hospital hummed overhead as I sat in the waiting room. My leg bouncing like it had a mind of its own. Just another Tuesday night in London. One of those raw November evenings, where the rain drums against the windows like impatient fingers. I wasn't there for myself. Just keeping my mate Jamie company. He'd gone over on his ankle during five-a-side football at the local pitch in Clapham. We'd been taking the mick out of his hopeless attempt at a volley, when everything flipped. Mr. Carter. Ethan Carter. I looked up. A nurse was rushing straight towards me. Face ashen. Eyes wide, panic and desperate hope fighting in them. Her navy scrubs had small dark blood stains. She was breathing hard. I'd given blood at St. Thomas twice before, during the NHS donor drives in the community hall. So my name was in their system somewhere. But why now? "That's me," I said, standing. Confusion crashing over me. "We need you right now. It's a critical emergency." Her voice cracked. Hands trembling. "You have AB negative blood, correct?" "Yeah, but what's?" "There's a woman in theater. Emergency cesarean. She's hemorrhaging badly. Massive trauma from a road traffic collision. We've exhausted every unit of AB negative in the blood bank. The nearest regional supply is at least 90 minutes away." She gripped my arm, surprisingly strong. Fingers digging into my coat sleeve. "You're the only AB negative match within a 100-mile radius right now. She has maybe 15, 20 minutes left. The baby too." "Sir, they're both going to die without you." The floor seemed to tilt. Time stretched thin. The way it does when life suddenly becomes enormous. I'd never met this woman. Didn't know her name. Her face. Her story. Nothing. But two lives. A mother and her unborn child hung in the balance. And I was apparently the only thing standing between them and the end. "Let's go," I said. No second thought. She grabbed my hand. We ran, actually ran. Through the corridors. Her clogs squeaking on the polished floors. Dodging trolleys, bypassing security, everything. Staff saw us coming and stepped aside fast. Faces grave. A doctor intercepted us halfway. Already prepping kit. Needle catching the harsh light. "We're doing this on the move," Dr. Harris said. Jaw locked tight. Voice steady from years of training. "No time for standard screening. Your last donation was 3 weeks ago. Records say you're good." "What happened to her?" I asked, as they slid the cannula into my arm. While we half-jogged another corridor. The needle barely registered. "Serious RTC 40 minutes ago. She's 32 weeks pregnant. Impact caused complete placental abruption. Placenta detached from the uterine wall. She's bleeding out faster than we can replace it. Baby's in distress." His voice dropped lower. Real pain flickered behind the calm. The husband, her partner, didn't survive the scene. Died on impact. She doesn't know yet. My chest clamped so hard. I almost couldn't pull an air. This woman wasn't just fighting for her life. And her babies. She'd already lost her partner. And hadn't even been told. We burst through the double doors into the surgical wing. Through the observation window. Controlled chaos. 8 or 9 people moving with razor precision. Monitors screaming. Numbers I couldn't read but knew were terrible. And there, under the brutal theater lights, a woman with auburn hair fanned out like a halo. Face pale as paper. Almost translucent. So much blood. "How much can you give?" Dr. Harris asked. Already connecting my line to their system. I looked at her through the glass. At the desperate, skilled fight to keep her alive. And something deep inside me locked into place. Everything she needs, I said. Take it all. Just save them. They took 2 units immediately. My blood flowing through clear tubes. Towards the operating theater. Then they wheeled me into the recovery bay next door. Monitored me constantly. Ready for more if needed. I felt lightheaded. Weak. But strangely more alive than ever. A nurse called Margaret stayed with me. Older lady. Kind eyes. Gentle hands. Checking my pressure every few minutes. You did something extraordinarily brave, she said softly. Most would have frozen. How could I freeze? She's dying. The baby's dying. I stared at the ceiling tiles. Counting them. Fighting to stay alert. Do you know her? I asked. The woman. Margaret shook her head. Came in as unidentified at first. Found her name in her handbag, Sophie Bennett. 29. No other next of kin listed except her husband. She paused. Face tight with sorrow. Poor love. She's got no idea what she's waking up to. If she wakes. She'll wake, I said. More conviction than I felt. She has to. Minutes crawled like hours. Clock on the wall ticking slowly. Each second an eternity. 15 minutes. 20. 30. Every door opening made my heart leap. Margaret brought Lucozade. A packet of crisps. Kept chatting. Anything to keep me conscious. But my mind was still in that theater. Then, after what felt like forever. Dr. Harris appeared in the doorway. Still in blood-splattered scrubs. Mask pulled down around his neck. Face exhausted. For one endless heartbeat. I couldn't read him. I braced. Then he smiled. Tired, drained, but real. They're both alive. Voice rough with feeling. Little girl. 4 pound 2 ounces. Premature, but fighting like a warrior. She's in neonatal intensive care. Ventilated. But the consultant's cautiously optimistic. He sank into the chair beside me. The mother, Sophie Bennett. She's stable. Still critical. But stable. We got the hemorrhage under control. Your blood, Mr. Carter. You saved them both. Without you, I'd be filling out 2 death certificates tonight. I exhaled a breath I hadn't realized I was holding. Tears came, sudden and unstoppable. Can I see them? Not tonight. Neonatal's parents only for now. But I'll see what I can arrange. Sophie's in recovery. Still unconscious from the anesthetic and shock. Likely wake in a few hours. He studied me, curious, weary. You coming back tomorrow? I'll be here, I said without hesitation. He nodded slowly. I'll clear you to visit. Unusual, but these are unusual circumstances. She'll need every bit of support. When we break the news about her husband. That night I barely slept. Kept replaying her pale face behind the glass. Kept picturing a tiny girl fighting in an incubator. Kept imagining Sophie waking to devastation. Next morning I returned. With sunflowers from the hospital shop. The lady said they symbolize hope. And this woman needed hope more than air. I felt ridiculous carrying them. A total stranger bringing flowers to another stranger. Dr. Harris met me in the corridor outside her room. Expression heavy. We told her about her husband an hour ago, he said quietly. It hit, exactly as badly as you'd expect. We had to sedate her lightly. She's calmer now. But only just hanging on. You sure you want to go in? You've already given more than anyone could ask. I'm sure, I said. Hands shaking despite the words. He opened the door softly. Sophie was awake. Propped against pillows. Staring out at the grey London rain. She looked fragile. Shattered. Like one wrong breath could break her completely. Auburn hair tangled. Face pale. Eyes red-rimmed and swollen. When she slowly turned. Those stormy grey eyes locked on me. Like a physical blow. You're him, she whispered. Voice raw. Broken. The stranger who saved us. The doctor said. Your blood. I stepped closer. Feeling utterly inadequate. With my cheap sunflowers. And no power to undo any of this. I'm Ethan. Ethan Carter. I just heard you needed help. I happened to be there. A tear slipped down her cheek. Then another. Then silent crying. Whole body trembling. They told me about Tom. My husband. That he's gone. That he died instantly. Didn't suffer. Like that changes anything. Her voice splintered. Our daughter, our Poppy. If you hadn't been there. I'd have nothing. Nothing. I didn't think. Just acted. Set the flowers on the side table. Took her hand. Her fingers ice cold. Shaking. Gripped mine like a lifeline. Hey, I said gently. Voice thick. You didn't lose her. She's here. Small. Fighting hard. But here. What's her name? Poppy, she said. The name seemed to steady her a fraction. We were going to call her Poppy Rose. Tom picked Rose, after his nan. She broke again, fresh, wrenching sobs. I dragged the chair closer. Saturday. Kept holding her hand. Let her cry. There were no words big enough anyway. I don't know how to thank you, she managed eventually. Voice barely audible. You gave me everything. My daughter's life. My own. When you didn't even know my name. Yes, I did, I said simply. How could I not? She looked at me then, really looked. Something passed between us. Not romance, too soon, too raw. But recognition. A bond forged in blood. And terror. And the razor edge between life and death. Can I see her? She asked. Poppy. They won't let me go to neonatal yet. I'm still too weak. Have you seen her? Not yet. But I'll ask. Maybe they'll let me take some photos for you. Her face softened with gratitude. Please. I came back every single day for the next 2 weeks. Told myself it was just to check on them. To make sure they pulled through. Truth was deeper. Something had hooked into my chest that first night. And wouldn't let go. Sophie was utterly alone. Parents lost to a house fire when she was 19. Tom's family blaming her irrationally. Even though a drunk driver had T-boned them. Her closest friends lived miles away, Manchester, Bristol, Glasgow. None could drop life to come. So I stepped into the gap. Brought her decent flat white from the Italian cafe on Lambeth Road. Instead of hospital vending machine filth. Brought paperbacks when sleep wouldn't come. Sat through panic attacks. Through grief that crashed like waves. Held her hand when there was nothing else to say. And when Poppy was finally strong enough to be held. When the neonatal team let Sophie make that slow, shaky walk down the corridor. To meet her daughter properly for the first time. I stood in the doorway. Watched her cradle that tiny bundle against her chest. Tears streaming. Whispering fierce promises, apologies, love. She's got his eyes, she told me later that day. Still holding Poppy. Refusing to let go. Tom's eyes. Bright blue. Like the sea when the sun hits it. That's the piece of him he left me. My throat closed tight. She's beautiful, sophomore. Perfect. And she's got the strongest mom alive. She looked up. Poppy sleeping peacefully on her chest. Expression so open. So vulnerable. We're both so lucky you keep coming back. I don't understand why you do. But I'm so grateful. You're not alone, I said. And I meant every word. I promise. That moment shifted something fundamental. Between us. Something that would change both our lives forever. When Sophie was finally discharged 3 weeks after the crash, I helped her move into a smaller flat in Kennington. She couldn't keep the house she and Tom had bought. Not on one salary, not with medical bills stacking up despite the NHS. I spent a whole weekend hauling boxes. Assembling flat-pack furniture. Baby-proofing sockets. One night at 2 a.m. I finished building Poppy's cot. Because Sophie had completely fallen apart trying. Found her on the nursery floor. Surrounded by wooden panels and instructions. Sobbing so hard she couldn't catch her breath. He was supposed to do this, she gasped. We had it all planned. He'd build the cot while I baked biscuits. We were going to laugh at how rubbish he was with instructions. Now he's gone. And I can't even manage a stupid cot without breaking. I sat on the floor beside her. Pulled her into my arms. Let her cry against my shoulder. It's okay to fall apart. You don't have to be strong every second. But Poppy needs me strong. Poppy needs you human. And I'm here. Let me help. So I built the cot while she rocked in the chair Tom had chosen. Holding Poppy, watching me. When it stood solid and safe. In the soft glow of the nightlight. She cried again. But softer this time. Thank you, she whispered. For everything. For being here when you don't have to be. Where else would I be? Somewhere in those months the lines blurred. I was there for Poppy's first real smile. Not wind, but recognition when she saw me. Her first proper laugh. Triggered by me pulling ridiculous faces. The terrifying night her temperature hit 39.5 degrees Celsius. And Sophie rang me at midnight in full panic. I drove them to A&E. Held Sophie while doctors checked Poppy over. And said it was just a virus. I fell in love so slowly I didn't notice until it was already done. It was in the quiet. Sophie falling asleep on my shoulder during night feeds. Exhausted beyond words. The way she sometimes looked at me. With something deeper than thanks. The way Poppy reached for me instead of a toy. And my heart cracked open wider each time. 6 months after the crash. We were on her sofa late one night. Poppy finally sleeping through more often. We just finished some daft rom-com. That made Sophie cry because everything made her cry lately. I feel so guilty, she said suddenly. Turning to face me. Eyes shimmering again. Tom's only been gone 6 months. And Ethan, I have feelings for you. Real ones. I don't know if that makes me awful. Or if it's just grief, gratitude. Sophie, I said quietly. I loved him, she said fiercely. Tom. So much. We were supposed to grow old together. Raise Poppy. Have more kids. Build a whole life. And he's gone. It's not fair. It hurts every single day. But you're here. You've been here for everything. You look at Poppy like she's yours. You hold me when I shatter. I don't know what I feel anymore. I reached out. Cupped her face. Wiped tears with my thumbs. It's okay to call it love, sophomore. That's what it is. And it doesn't erase what you had with Tom. She let out a shaky breath. How can you be so sure? Because Tom loved you. I never met him. But I know he did from everything you've said. And if he could see you now. How hard you fought for Poppy. How you've survived the worst thing imaginable. How you keep going when it would be easier to give up. I think he'd want you happy. Do you love her? She whispered. Raw vulnerability. Unconditionally. When I look at Poppy, I see the little girl I helped save. But I also see your daughter. Tom's daughter. And somewhere along the way, without me even clocking it, she became mine too. Not by blood. Well, technically a tiny bit by blood. But by choice. By every sleepless night. Every hospital appointment I drove you to. Every time I stayed when I could have left. And me? Her voice tiny. Terrified of the answer. What do you see when you look at me? I leaned in. Forehead against hers. Breaths mingling. I see my future. The woman I want to wake up beside for the rest of my life. Poppy's mom. My best friend. The person who makes me want to be better every day. Our first kiss was soft. Tentative. Tasting of salt and hope and fragile new beginnings. Gentle. Careful. Mindful of the grief still raw between us. Respectful of the man who should have been there. But real. Right. Inevitable. A year and a half later. Life had become something beautiful. Poppy took her first wobbly steps towards me. While Sophie laughed and cried at the same time. We became a family. In every way that counted. One spring evening. I took Sophie back to St. Thomas. To that same observation window. Where I'd first seen her fighting for life. This is where it started, I said quietly. Where I first saw you. And something in me knew my life was about to change forever. I knelt. Pulled out a small velvet box. I know I'm not Tom. I'll never try to replace him or erase him. He gave you Poppy. And that's a gift I'll honor always. But Sophie. I'm asking for the chance to be your husband. Poppy's dad. To build a life with you both. Yes. She pulled me up. Nearly knocking me over. Kissing me through tears and laughter. Yes. Yes. 1,000 times yes. We married 3 months later. On a perfect June morning. In a little chapel overlooking the Thames. Standing at the altar watching her walk towards me. I thought back to that November night. How a random hospital visit for a mate's twisted ankle had led here. How death and life had twisted together. To make something impossibly beautiful. When it was time for vows. Sophie's voice shook with emotion. Ethan. The day you gave your blood to save me and Poppy. You gave us more than life. You gave us hope. You showed me love can grow even in the darkest places. That families aren't only born. They're built by people who choose to stay. To fight. To love. Even when it's hard. You chose us when you didn't have to. You're the greatest gift I never knew to ask for. I had to wipe my eyes before I could speak. Sophie. I went to the hospital that night for a sprained ankle. Instead I found my purpose. You and Poppy. You're my miracle. I don't believe in coincidences anymore. I believe I was meant to be there. Meant to save you. Meant to love you. I promise to honor Tom's memory. By being the best dad I can to his daughter. I promise to love you through every joy. And every storm. No dry eyes in the chapel. When I kissed her, Poppy let out a delighted squeal. Everyone laughed through tears. It was perfect. 5 years later, I stood in Poppy's bedroom, tucking her in. She looked up at me. With those bright blue eyes. Tom's eyes. And smiled. Daddy, tell me the story again. Which one, sweetheart? How you saved me and Mummy. I sat on the edge of her bed. Brushed hair from her face. Well, it was a very scary night. Your Mummy needed help. And I happened to be in the right place. At the right time. Do I have your blood in me? A little bit. Yeah. She grinned wide. So we match, like a proper family. My throat tightened. Exactly like a family. After she drifted off, I found Sophie in our bedroom. Hand resting on her rounded belly. Where our son kicked strong. She looked up. Those gray eyes still stealing my breath. Do you know what the doctors told me once? The odds of you being there. Exact moment, exact blood type I needed. 1 in 7 million. I pulled her close. Guess we're both pretty damn lucky. She smiled softly. Not luck, Ethan. Fate. And standing there. Wife in my arms. Daughter sleeping peacefully down the hall. Son growing inside her. I knew she was right. Sometimes strangers become family. Sometimes tragedy turns into triumph. And sometimes saving someone else's life means finding your own.